Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
It is December, so this year it is Christmas movies month.
Yay.
Last December we did like a Christmas movie in December and a bunch of other weird stuff. So this time we're just going to do weird Christmas movies instead of weird other movies. So for this week, for the first week of Christmas movies month, we watched something that before we started, I thought to myself, like, have I seen this before? Have I not? I don't remember. Like, sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I haven't seen this movie. And then as I'm sitting watching it, I've been like, oh my God, I absolutely have.
Yeah.
So in this case, I was waiting for that, and it did not come. I definitely have not seen this movie before.
Okay.
And because I would have fucking remembered it. It would have imprinted on my small child psyche. Well, not that. It came out in 98, so if I saw it that year, I would have been 9. That's young enough to be scarred by by this movie,
or to enjoy it, because I definitely saw it closer to, I don't know, I didn't see it in theaters,
okay,
but I remember that we had this on DVD at some point, and so I know that I saw it at least once or twice when I was younger.
And you made it out unscathed.
Yes.
By that fucking snowman. Because
I saw a lot of really shitty puppets when I was growing up.
When I was doing a little bit of research, I read what Roger Ebert had to say about the movie.
Oh no.
Which he gave it 1 out of 4 stars.
Oh,
and
no.
The specific quote that is, it's so funny that they pulled this quote for the Wikipedia page. Like, whoever made the page and went to his review was like, oh, this is the best part of it. Is it's possible for the Jim Henson folks and Industrial Light and Magic to put their heads together and come up with the most repulsive single creature in the history of special effects. And I am not forgetting the Chucky doll or the desert intestine from Star Wars. Like, yeah, dude,
It was
that
bad.
fucking snowman face. That was literally one of my early on notes, was literally just snowman face. Like, I can't articulate it any more than that. I can't even describe exactly what it is, but just snowman face. Oh my God. I had sort of put off saying the name of the movie because normally I look at the Wikipedia page and I list off all the fucking adjectives that they give the movies, because sometimes that's just hysterical to see, like, oh, I guess it was one of those kinds of movies too. This feels like revisionist history. The writing of this, of the adjectives given to Jack Frost, feels like someone is trying to cover for how horrifying it was. Because in here, it's called, it's the 1998 American dark fantasy drama film, Jack Frost. Dark fantasy.
I understand. I mean, okay.
I understand fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, obviously.
Yeah.
The man becomes a snowman. It's the dark part that just, like,
I guess.
is it just because it's dealing with death?
I guess.
That seems pretty,
I mean,
that's pretty low for being called, like, dark anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that implies that there's, like, evil afoot. And there's no necessary evil in this movie.
No, there's a magic harmonica, and that's about it.
Yeah. I don't know what they're trying to get at with that.
Yeah.
And it, like like I said, the sort of, like, the questions that I had throughout the movie were mostly involved in the, like, existential terror of Jack's new life. you know, and so thinking of it through that lens, I could understand considering it dark, but that's like me looking at this movie 20 years later.
Yeah.
And seeing it for the ridiculousness that it is, and like thinking too hard about it, thinking harder than the writers ever did about the implications of this world that they've created. So it's like, in retrospect, it's dark fantasy, but I think on its face, it is just like kiddie movie fantasy.
Yeah.
Like
attempted wholesome family fantasy.
Yeah. There's really no objectionable material other than the abundance of balls jokes.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Snowballs. But
you have the opportunity to make every single joke. That doesn't mean you have to make every single joke.
And not just that, it's the amount of times. Like when the first couple, I was like, okay. And then towards the end of the movie, he had another one, like just before the end. It was like, oh, gotta slip one more balls joke in. Like, really, movie? Do we need all these balls jokes?
That was him saying that my balls are freezing. Never thought I'd say that with a smile on my face.
Oh my god. The sassy snowman attitude of this movie. Like, it's holy Christ. It is so like it's the like this is the movie that they make commercials for in TV shows about ridiculous movies. You know what I mean? Like down to the casting. You know, where it's like, okay, we're gonna have this
Michael
like,
Keaton
Michael Keaton is the magic snowman dad, like, and that's hysterical. And then you realize, like, oh my god, this is a movie.
Yes.
This is a thing that was released to people on like face value. Like, yeah, come see the Michael Keaton, Kelly Preston magic snowman movie for Christmas. Did you remember most of this? Like, was there anything in it where you were like, whoa, in terms of like weirdness or like stuff that you never thought of as a kid?
Not really. Surprisingly, the like one thing that slipped my memory was the fact that he was a musician.
That's so huge too.
I know.
It's
funny.
funny.
Oh right, yeah. He was coming back from, they were gonna go to a gig. That's right. Oh my god. Duh. That's why he had the harmonica. Like, I remembered the harmonica.
Oh, okay.
But the whole he was a like musician in a band thing somehow just went away.
Yeah, that's hysterical, and it lends credence to my theory of people like or at least it just adds another like case to the whole thing of like, man, when I saw a movie as a kid, somehow I keep forgetting about like the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And it's like, in this case, it's like, oh, it's the same kind of thing. Where it's like, oh yeah, the beginning of the movie where he's a musician before he dies and becomes a snowman. Like, as a kid, that stuff just washes over you because you're like, get to the snowman, like get to the whatever, and you forget about all that first stuff.
I mean, I absolutely had seen it from the beginning.
Right.
Because like once it started, I was like, that's how this movie goes. That was all I needed.
Yeah.
After that, it was smooth sailing in terms of what I remembered.
Gotcha. I was definitely confused for a while about that part of the movie because it's like he's a guy. He's apparently a like at least somewhat touring musician. The fact that they go out and have like a string of gigs somewhere, even if it's not like cross country, you know, there's still like a relatively small time band.
Yeah.
But they go on trips and play a bunch of clubs and apparently have tons of people there and partying and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, this is a good thing going. You know, not just like a couple of dads playing in a bar room. It's like, this is a band. Yeah. And I was very confused. Like, my first note is really the hey man, check this out trope of the guy literally holding his phone out to the show like, you need to listen to this.
Yeah.
We need to sign them. I was like, oh my god, movie.
Yeah.
Movie. That's like a sitcom opening where you got to get to it like immediately because like, we only have 20 minutes. Like, movie, you go on for an hour and 40. You can give it a little time. You don't have to do it so like that. But I forget what they're playing, but are they playing like a bluesy Frosty or something like that? I was under the impression that they were a Christmas band. Like that they were a band who played Christmas songs and like bluesy Christmas rock and all that. So I was like, for one, how is this a oh my God, you need to hear that. Like, how is that not a thing of like, oh yeah, they're doing that. Yeah. That people do sometimes. This is just our area's version of that. And I was like, and how are they getting signed to a label with such limited popularity time of year? Where it's like, December is it. Yeah. Every other month of the year, it's like, well, we got nothing for you. Sorry. There's no gigs for this Christmas band any other time. So when they finally have that scene where they're in the studio and they're recording that song. Yeah. And I was like, oh, they are a band. Yes. Okay. Because they only showed them performing the Christmas song. So it is on me. Assuming.
Understandable assumption, though. But I get it.
It was so funny to me when when Jack says to his wife something along the lines of like, they get us. And I was like, who doesn't? It's Christmas. There's nothing to unlock here. And then finally I was like, oh, okay, my outrage is not warranted. They're not just a Christmas band. But yeah, his kid, Charlie, likes hockey, is...
He's smart and he's nice.
Yeah.
Because that whole
That's right.
epic
he gets
snowball fight.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I honestly, I would watch a whole movie that is a like stylized war version of a snowball fight. I would absolutely watch that.
That would be a ton of fun.
Like 90 minutes of that.
I loved that they added like
the war sound effects and stuff. Yeah. And that's the gist. And then you got to like really play it up as the movie goes along. Like that would be amazing. And I started thinking about that and I was like, oh, this is pleasant. Wait, I have a movie I need to be watching because it's going to move on from this eventually. That's not this whole movie. But so he's just a good boy.
He's a good kid.
Yeah,
he gets really high marks and he's athletic and has friends and blah, blah, blah. He's an all-American boy.
Yeah. And Jack is living his dream, trying to live his dream in the band. And when they like start getting serious, it really affects his home life. What bugged me, like, it's the specific conversations that they had with each other and then their actions afterwards, where I was like, come on, kid. You guys just talked about this. Yeah. Because Jack gets back from his recording and the kid is in his room, like all holed up in like a little fort.
It was a pretty sweet blanket fort.
Yeah, it was cool. I was jealous.
A little bit.
But he comes in and, he apologizes to Charlie for missing the game. And, they talk about stuff for a while. I think that's where they mentioned that he was a defenseman now or something. I don't know. But
no, that was later. That
Okay.
came when Jack was a snowman.
Oh, okay. But yeah, they're talking. He apologizes, and he like explains to Charlie like that you need to keep playing hockey, keep your head up, keep following your dreams, because that's what I'm doing. Like I'm trying to make this work. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel I was like born to do. Blah 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 blah. And he explains it to him like I want to do this for a better life for you and your mom and all of that. And he's like, oh, okay. And he like kind of like has an understanding of that. Like, and I'm really close. Like it's like, it's right here on the doorstep. I think he says like, I think it might be happening. Yeah. And it's like, oh shit. Like that's big time. And it's like I loved the fact that it was like a real sit down, like just talking with the kid, like not down at all.
Yeah, just
not
explaining.
Like putting it in kiddie terms. He was just like, hey kid, I want to talk to you for a sec. Yeah. And Michael Keaton was great at that. Yes. Like I love him. So him in this role was definitely a treat. Yes. Even if it gets so weird. But the human parts with him were wonderful. And that scene was really great. And it seemed like they had this like, like, okay. And obviously the things have to like somewhat go wrong or something, whatever. But the way the kid reacted to him needing to like go, it's like, oh, we're going to take this weekend. We're going to go have a Christmas thing alone off in the cabin, just the family, no phones, all that shit. Yeah. And then the fateful phone call just before the vacation happens, of course. Yeah. And it's the guy, and he says they got to play a gig for some bigwig on Christmas to fucking like cinch the deal or whatever. Yeah. And the kid again, I get it. It's Christmas. But that's sort of part of my problem with the whole thing. And like kind of just the world, as weird as it is to be like, I'm gonna get on this soapbox about the entire world because of this movie, Jack Frost. But there is just such a fucking, like, in movies, they put so much importance on the actual day of Christmas.
Yeah.
As though there is some actual magical thing that can never be recreated and only comes once a year, and and there's nothing you can do about it. It's Christmas or bust.
Yeah.
December 25th or fuck yourself, And then like it's like a feedback loop to the people in the real world who get the kids, and then they grow up, and people who just have, and not even to say like people who like Christmas. Like no, it's fine. If you love it, that's fine. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But it's when people get like just getting angry with people or getting petty with people, or placing just so much significance on the day of Christmas that you couldn't possibly be like, oh well, we'll celebrate it on the 26th when we're available.
Yeah.
Something came up, and the fact that he has that conversation with his dad the night before or whenever it was, being like, hey, like I this sucks and I hated missing your game, but it'll get so much better. It's just like essentially it's just saying like it's a tough little stretch we're going to be in, and it'll be greater on the other end of it.
Yeah,
just like bear with me, kid.
Yeah,
and him being like, okay, Dad, and he fucking gives him that harmonica. But the fact that he gets the call like, oh, we got this gig, it's going to be on Christmas Day, and the kid just straight up pulls the harmonica out and fucking just like throws it on the ground and is just like, I don't want it anymore. I just wrote like, wow, Charlie, I get you're disappointed, but go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's rough. And literally the thing that you guys just talked about, Yeah. Like if he had maybe a just more like downtrodden reaction, or something like that. Like I don't understand why he needed to like denounce my father's harmonica. You know what I mean? Like that didn't necessarily add anything to like the story or whatever, because he's going to die anyway, regardless of how like, if you're like actively mad or you're like disappointed mad, or either way, it doesn't matter, because he's going to die, and then it's going to all come back later and you'll sort it out, so it just seemed weird to me that he had to go so balls to the wall, like, fuck you and everything you stand for, Dad, after having that conversation, like if he had just been like, oh yeah, I get it, and then just like walked off, and Jack could be like, God, I feel fucking terrible, even though it wasn't like a big breakdown, it was still like, oh, I broke that kid's heart.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to scream at me about it, but I can tell.
Yeah.
But instead it's like, no, we're just going to have him yell at him.
It just makes Charlie seem like a dick.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my problem. Like, come on, man. I don't know. That leads us into like the crux of the movie, where Jack Frost dies and returns as a magical snowman.
Yes. 1 year later.
Right. Not immediately.
Yes.
Obviously, I knew that was like the plot of the movie. That it wasn't a surprise to me that he dies. I just thought that it was like a little bit of a narrative ripoff that Jack realizes his mistake before he dies. What does he learn then? Like, obviously he's going to be coming back as a snowman.
Yeah.
And in cases like that, like typically, just, since it's not a real thing in ever, but like typically in movie things, like someone gets put into like a cursed body of some kind for something that they, business they haven't finished, or, amends they need to make, or something like that, like, or a lesson that needs to be learned.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was leaving on the gig, and I thought that was like, like a tough thing, but it wasn't like I was like, oh, Jack, you monster. It was just like, okay, that's the decision he made.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna die, and he's gonna come back as a snowman, and he's gonna realize what a mistake he had made, and he'll have to try to make amends for it. But the fact that he like sits there and is like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I need to go back right now, and dies on that car ride heading back, just seemed a little weird to me, because it's like, okay, so what's he gonna do for the rest of the movie? And he really basically just teaches his son how to play hockey.
Yeah. Well, he got the chance to be a good dad.
Right, but I mean, it's not even like he was some sort of awful dad.
No.
He seemed like he was
just
really
wasn't
good.
There.
Right. I mean, look, I get the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, I get that it's like he's never around, and now he's the snowman dad who does dad things with him.
Yeah.
And he's a snowman at the same time. Like, I understand that whole thing. I mean, I'm looking at it too deeply in terms of like, what is the snowman's arc?
Yeah.
But truthfully, like, what's the point? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is like, why does he come back? Like the magic, whatever, obviously that's just like, whatever. He made a wish.
Yeah, that's the
and
how.
it turned it real and blah, 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 whatever. But it's like, okay, so now you have a guy who's back as a snowman and his traumatized kid who lost his dad. Mm-hmm. So just be a dad as a snowman now.
Yeah.
And that's everything. That's the whole gist. And then the kid can't let him go. Mm-hmm. But it's like they never, ever, ever stop and talk about like, why did this happen? And what does he need to do, if anything? Because typically that's how it works. Like there's something you need to do to move on, to release yourself from this snowy prison that you're in or whatever it is. But at the end of the movie, he literally just says like, I need to go now. And I wrote into my notes, it wasn't, he says, it's time for me to go. And I just wrote in all caps, how do you know that? Like none of
the movie's almost over.
The runtime's almost up, idiot. But like that was the biggest thing is like I was expecting there to be some kind of like afterlife scene. Mm-hmm. Where Jack would get like sent back by some guys. It would be sort of like Beetlejuice. You know? In that sort of sense. But just, you know, like, oh, you there's something, you know, you fucking your kid's sad or something. Whatever the specific thing that they would write, like you need to learn this or do this or whatever. The fact that it's just completely arbitrary, it just happens and then it's over later. Indeterminate. There's no like ticking clock. There's no like we need to do something other than like it's getting warm and he's starting to melt. And it's like, is that the only thing? Like, could he go and live in those woods forever? Because that's what I thought the end of the movie was leading towards. Where he's like, the mountains, you could just be up there. And I was like, oh my god. Does his snow dad just live in the mountains for the rest of the time?
Only comes down in the winter.
Yeah, and he can go up and like visit him and stuff. Like, oh my god, that's the craziest thing in the world. But then instead it just ends equally crazily, where he just simply disappears, but turns back into Michael Keaton briefly to give a speech.
So that it can be one last heartfelt speech that you can actually like pay attention to fully.
Yeah, and not have to like avert your eyes as the snowman speaks and blinks and just I mean, obviously it did not affect you as much as it did me, but did it affect you? Like, was that snowman at all a thing of like, oh, that's what it is?
So,
or was it just like, yep, that's Jack?
Surprisingly, when I was younger, nothing. It was this viewing that I was like, oh, that's a little awkward. It wasn't like, oh my god, that thing's grotesque. How can anyone watch this movie? It was more like, oh, that's not great.
I mean, that might be a little far, like in terms of like, how could anyone watch this movie? But it's that thing is fucking strange. Like that is one of the fucking weirdest things I've ever seen in terms of like, it's like it's supposed to be snow, but it's clearly a pup, you know, like
it's clearly like felt.
Yeah, like there's something so off-putting about it. Like I would have probably like if they were to do this movie now and did some sort of like mocap CGI snowman guy, it would probably actually I don't know how it could possibly be good. Like in terms of design, because snowmen are just so like grotesquely oddly shaped that giving them true human features like a full like slit mouth all the way across its face and oh man, it's so fucking weird to look like. I oh my god, it's like oh, it's so gross looking. It's astounding to me that kids reacted positively to that. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
I totally understand. Again, like we've said a couple of times for different movies of like not the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of these things, like if fucking they had a showing and then some executives were like, what did you think for some reason to me? And I'd list all this shit and they'd be like, kids don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
You're a lunatic. Stop talking.
Kids don't think that deeply about the plot of a movie.
Yeah.
They just want to see Snowman do goofy things.
It's just like, it's so low. Oh my God. The dog pees on him.
Like right away.
Yeah, immediately. They can't not do that.
Mm-hmm.
I did like I was glad that Charlie fucking called him out on that one moment when it was like a big huge long sequence. But when he like fucking starts like machine gunning snowballs at those kids and basically incites a giant snowball war, Charlie v all the kids,
yeah,
and everything, and then they get chased away and they fucking snowboard.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
After breaking a sled in half,
the green screen on those snowboard shots was so fucking obvious. Like it was so funny,
awful
watching the like kid and puppet snowman with the green screen like background like flying past them as they're just like we're snowboarding.
These like tiny little movements.
Yeah, like you guys are barreling down a hill at like 40 miles an hour.
Your hair is not
and then
moving.
You cut to the close-ups and they're just like oh like,
Snowman still has his hat on.
Yeah, right. Like it's so fucking silly.
One thing I did like from early on in the Alive Snowman portion was when he encountered Sid. When he was like wandering around town.
Oh God,
and Sid
yeah.
Screamed.
Yeah.
And started driving away backwards. And
Yeah.
you could hear him
Yeah.
continuing to scream as he's driving and like turned corners.
Yeah. I love that. Fucking Henry Rollins from Black Flag. That's the guy who plays him. That's hysterical to me. I thought that was great. He was actually really great in like the whole thing. Specifically the moment later when Charlie's like, I'm going to come back on the team. And he's in the van and he's like trying to not look at the snowman. And he keeps telling the kids to not talk about snowman in his van.
Yeah.
Thought that was hysterical. I wrote once when he fucking, when he showed up and like saw him speak and freaked out. I was like, how is this not just the rest of this movie? Like, how does anything ever happen that isn't him going to someone and being like, hey guys, and them just being like, ah! for the rest of time until he melts or whatever. Like, man, I don't understand. It seems like it always breaks people's brains when this snowman starts speaking to them. Like, that was hysterical to me. But it was so silly how Charlie refused to believe that it was his dad until he called him Charlie Boy.
Yeah.
I was like, how about just the fact that he knew your name was Charlie?
Yeah.
And is the snowman you made of your dad,
and
like specifically.
Sounds exactly like your father.
Yeah, like it was so silly. I was like, how can you accept that it's a living snowman, but you draw the line at that snowman being your dad? You know what I mean? Like trying to like test him, like, oh yeah, well, what did I do for this? Or
how did my hamster die?
Yeah, how did my hamster die?
That was one thing I did remember. And he probably had a heart attack as he was getting sucked up in the vacuum.
Yeah, but it was so funny after that Charlie calls him out for getting chased off of a cliff.
Yeah.
And all that kind of shit. Because I wrote down, I was just like, this is all your fault, you snowy asshole. Why did you incite this like fucking snowball riot? And then your kid almost dies falling over a cliff.
Yeah.
And then Charlie was like, you got me into that. And I was like, that's right. You stand up for yourself, Charlie. I don't care if he's your snow dad. When he first wakes up as the snowman and he doesn't understand like what is happening.
Yeah.
So many fucking questions.
Yeah.
Immediately. Because my first thing, because I forget exactly what he says first, but he's just like, oh, I'm at home or something. Like, oh, it's cold out here. And I was just like, oh my God, he doesn't know he died.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Like, oh my God, like he's going to be going through trauma on top of the kid also going through trauma of seeing this talking snowman come at him. Especially if that kid read Calvin and Hobbes like I did as a kid. because there's a fucking whole arc about the killer monster snow goons.
Yes.
So if I saw a snowman fucking coming for me as a kid, I would imagine I was going to die.
Yeah.
But he didn't seem to know what happened to him. And then he learns that he's a snowman. And then he mentioned something about being brought back to life.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I guess you could hand wave it away with like, well, as the more time passes, he regains his thoughts and memories and shit or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just seemed strange that he was just like, I don't even know what's happening right now. I'm just at home.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that I'm a snowman. And then when it turns out he's a snow, like, is that what makes him realize it? Like, I'm a snowman. My God, I'm dead. Like, oh my God. Like, there was no reaction from him. It didn't come across to me like he understood he was dead. But then later it just is.
Yeah.
And he never deals with it. And I was like, damn it.
I mean, he had a line that made it seem like he like already accepted that he was dead.
Like off screen, like I got over it.
No, like right at the beginning there, like because he said like, you know, it's bad enough dying early or whatever he said, but to come back as a snowman.
Okay, well, yeah, but like the fact like that he gets over it that quickly, that's really all he does, because it's okay. I just
in my head, like my headcanon was that he like knew he was dead the whole time. He just didn't understand like what was happening in terms of like now he's back home. Like why is he back home? You know, that was more of his confusion than I was driving a car and now I'm standing on my front lawn. Okay,
because that's what it seemed like to me. That he just suddenly was like, where am I? Yeah. Oh my God. Like there's a lot you need to come to terms with, buddy. And we never see that. So it's like, okay, I guess he's just fine. Yeah. He's like, yeah, well, you know, shit happens. I was a rock and roller. Live fast, die young, become a snowman. People don't know that's the third step.
They don't tell you that. They still want people to play rock and roll.
Live fast, die young, become snowman.
Ding Dong Burgers?
Yes. Holy crap.
What?
That's Mr. Show.
Oh, okay.
That commercial being in there is so fucking funny for so many reasons. Like that blew my fucking mind when that happened. And then as the movie kept going, it was just like additional explosions as it continues. Because fucking later when they talk about the weather report, cuts to the weather report, Jay Johnston from Mr. Show, the guy from fucking Story of Everest who keeps falling into the thimble thing and everything. Okay, yeah. That dude. Also Jimmy Pesto on Bob's Burgers. And then Paul F. Tompkins, who is in tons of shit. He typically has like a mustache. I didn't see him in the movie, but I saw him in the credits as like an audience member. Okay. So it's like, okay, and Paul F. Tompkins is here too. And then the dude driving the truck up to the trees, you know, like up to the mountains with the trees and shit on it. Yeah. That dude is in that fucking sing-song burger sketch. He's the guy who runs the company, because that's from those commercial sketches with the pansexual spokes thing. Yes. I forget its fucking name now. Oh, that's going to bug the shit out of me. Pit Pat. That's it. Pit Pat. But it's that section, and it's just so funny to put that in a kid's movie, because like moments later in the sketch, because they show it for the few seconds, like it's the new King Kong Ding Dong Sing Song Burger, and then they cut away. Like the next thing that happens is that it goes up to David Cross chowing on one of the burgers. He's just like, this fucker's tasty. And that's like the whole joke, is that everyone in the restaurant is swearing the whole time. Just like, this fucker made me come out here and made me try one of these fucking things. They're fucking delicious. It's like, of all the sketches to put in this movie, just so briefly, is that one. And then on top of it, all these Mr. Show actors are in it. Like, what's weird connection is there between that? Like, it's so strange. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
I just saw your reaction to that commercial, and I was like, yeah, the guy shoving the burger in his face, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, okay. It's the fucking I love the movie for that alone. Like, that was worth it.
Charlie also briefly flip past Backdraft on TV.
Yes.
Another not so kid friendly thing. But oddly enough, something I watched as a kid. Maybe that's why this didn't faze me, was because I watched. Maybe not necessarily.
I watch tons of horror movies, man. Like
it's true.
It's the unsettlingness of the Snowman itself. It has nothing to do with any other.
I also the rest watched of the movie, Hoodwinked a bunch. So
I'm just saying, rest of the movie completely harmless. There's nothing about it that is like, whoa. At least in like that kind of sense. It's only one, like even the like CGI moments of the snowman were okay to me. Like it wasn't that bad, but it's that specific fucking rubber face monster thing. Like it looks like something you'd see at a fucking haunted house, like a professional one. And like it was so terrifying, so strange. Also, like this. What bugs me so much about the movie, about the writing of the movie, it's like, okay, I get it, whatever, blah blah blah, it's for kids, but you have 4 people writing this movie and you can't think of different ways to do stuff that doesn't bring up like insane questions just because you can't fucking think of a way to get a snowman into the house. The fact that he's like, I'm hungry, I'm like, oh my god, it eats. It needs to eat.
It can't just
like
eat
forever.
Snow?
Like, what? Like, does he just feel hunger like a phantom thing?
Maybe?
Like from being human? And it's like, no, there's no digestive tract. You're a fucking snowman. You can't eat anything. But it's like, but he does. Because the kid has to cover for him. He's like, oh, I was really hungry. I ate all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my god. So it does eat. Oh my god. And the movie's just like, no, it's fine. It's just silly. He's just in the pantry and she doesn't see him and he like sneaks out. It's silly. It's like, you couldn't think of a different way to get him in the house into these zany hijinks without bringing up the terrifying question of, do snowmen eat? So fucking strange. Again, 4 people wrote this movie. Oh. Also, could not get over how many fucking, like, look to the camera like, oh boy, moments there were in this movie. Because there were so many.
Yeah,
mostly it's typically the snowman who's doing it, but it's just like something is happening. Something madcap is happening. And he just needs to let you know that he also thinks this is a bit much. Like, oh boy. Like, we get it, Michael Keaton, man. Just do what you're doing. Like, I'm not even like it. The whole time that he was doing the like snowboarding and like poofing between the trees and becoming like a skinny snowman and all that stuff, like none of that was like offensive to me or like sitting there like, oh, what fucking garbage. Because it was just like, okay, yeah, that's the kid stuff. That's the stuff where they're just sitting there like, oh, look at that, look at him go, he's snowboarding, he's a snowman who's snowboarding. Like, isn't that hysterical? Like, obviously I don't think so, but I'm also not like faulting the movie for it.
Yeah,
but it's the weird stuff that doesn't seem child friendly or related. Like the moment when he looks down and realizes that he doesn't have a dick anymore. And he's like, no. It's like, what? Why would you think you would?
Yeah.
Like, if you've already come to terms with the snowman part.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, my arms are branches and clearly my face is, snow, and they didn't use coal. What they use for his, I forget what they use for his eyes.
I don't even remember.
But whatever, my face is made of these other things. Like I have a cork nose and, maybe do I still have a human dick? Oh, I don't. Like, you want that? That makes it a million times weirder. Like, what was he looking down and expecting to see? Like a snow dick? His own normal dick? Like, oh, thank God. At least I can still fuck. Like, what? Why does he give a shit? Like, why put that in there?
Because they needed another dick joke, because there was the one earlier in the movie where Jack and Charlie are building a snowman.
Oh, yeah. And he put...
Yeah.
I thought you said hose, not nose.
So, got a closure.
Comes full circle. And I thought it was very strange Like, there's that moment when the kids see him walking and they like, I forget what the fucking bully's name was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rory.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But when he is like, you know, he wants to like start some shit with Charlie again. And he's just like Charlie Brown sad walking past them. And the other kid's like, he's no fun to mess with anymore since his dad died. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, I know from the mouths of babes, you know, kids just say shit. They don't like sugarcoat it or anything. Like, that's literally what happened. His dad died and now he's not fun.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fucked up to hear out loud.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
It really is. Like, that was written into that script.
Yeah, they were like, we got to get across the fact that he has not been fun.
Yeah. Since his dad died.
Yeah. But like, so, you know, he's bummed about it, obviously, and it's, you know, fucking with his, you know, psyche in general. Although I did, when he was doing that shoveling scene, I was like, that's just how I react to shoveling anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I hate it so much when it's all like jammed together and shit and you gotta like break it apart. Like, no, yeah, I've had those exact kind of freakouts before.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's clearly having a hard time with it and everything. I don't know. There was a lingering question that went unanswered that I thought was weird, considering how much time they wind up spending with Mac, the keyboard player from the band, who becomes like Uncle Mac, essentially, like hanging around and being there for him.
Jack's best friend.
Right. Yeah, I know. But just like, if they had just sort of left him out of the picture, I would never have really thought about this question. But since he's in it so much, there was one distinct moment. It was just before he gets brought back as a snowman. And Mac and Charlie are that's always sunny. Mac and Charlie are sitting in the living room huff and paint, and but they're watching, I think, Muddy Waters, Stevie Ray Vaughan, I forget who the fuck it was. It was some famous guitar player. I think it was Stevie Ray Vaughan. But they're watching him and he mentions how, oh, your dad was a huge fan of him, you know, blah blah blah, and we played some shows or yeah,
whatever,
something like that. And fucking Charlie says, nice to know he had time for someone.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I get that he would still harbor resentment for, you know, all the time that he spent away from him when he was around.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like that should have been a moment, if he hadn't already, for Mac to like explain what happened that night. Like, I thought that was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
About how like he was coming back to you. Like, since they went that way.
Yeah.
Of like, he figures it out before he dies, but he dies on the way back. Like, did Mac never tell anybody that he, like, it was his car too?
Yeah.
Like, how could they not know that it was like, oh, he was coming back. He was shunning that. Like, if he had made it back, he would have been your fucking hero, kid.
Yeah.
He would have walked in on like Christmas morning or something with a bunch of presents in his arms. He would have been like, oh my God, you're the greatest dad in the world. But unfortunately, he fucking died.
Yeah.
But you'd think that once he knew that he was coming back, that he'd be like, oh my God. And maybe he'd like forgive him a little bit. But the fact that he still holds so much, like, oh, he had time for someone. Like,
12-year-old kids.
Yeah, but it was like he was making time, all the time in the world for you when he died. Like, that's kind of the tragedy of it.
Yeah.
I guess you just don't understand it yet. It'll hit you later. You'll have a horrible breakdown about this when you're like 25.
Yeah.
Also, I thought it was fucking crazy for a movie of this like caliber, and not even as a huge insult, like just enough of an insult of like the caliber of movie it is. Like, this is not, it'll never go down as something, because, okay, I'll put it this way. You look at a movie like Elf.
Yeah.
Elf, absolutely. A kid's movie.
Yes.
Hysterical still.
Yes.
Really great.
Yeah.
Totally enjoyable as an adult because it's just a really well-made movie.
Yes.
Really well put together movie.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. And then this kind of movie is way more on that level of like, let's just string some basic story shit between CGI snowman action scenes and we got a movie. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, like that's really what it comes down to. You wouldn't think that they would, in their like emotional, I think it's the snowman building scene, that they would pull out fucking Landslide. That blew my mind. I was like, that must have cost so much for your Snowman movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's what seems so crazy to me. Like, that's the kind of song, like, that is the big guns of sad movie songs. Like, obviously it's just a sad song in general. It lives in its own place.
Yeah.
But like, if you're making a movie and you want to grab a sad song that'll hit a lot of people, sort of like with like unintentional, like collateral damage of emotional manipulation, where it's like the song itself is sad and it mentions snow. And so, you know, it gets
the mountains.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's thematically right for the movie, sort of. It's not really about a kid building a snowman of his dad, but whatever. But then also all the people who have listened to that song and had it affected them in other ways suddenly get those emotions too. And it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Whoa, Jack Frost, goddamn you.
That wasn't fair.
Yeah, like that was a dirty trick. Like, that is insane that they pulled out that big of a gun for that scene.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. It's like fucking Fleetwood Mac.
I remembered that song being in the movie too.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Also, right after the landslide note was me writing, "Kid, wear a fucking hat." That kid, like, and then after that, he starts wearing hats. I could not believe it. I was like, this. I get that it's like Colorado, so it's like colder more, I guess. I don't really know the fucking temperature in Colorado. I feel like it's pretty moderate mostly, and then winters get really cold. But it's like, but I understand the idea of being like, I'm acclimated to, you know, mountain winters.
Yeah.
So I don't need to wear like big, huge, puffy coats. It's like, no matter how well acclimated you are, like, your ears are going to get cold and it's going to suck. Wear a hat.
Yeah.
Just wear a hat. And then for the rest, I was expecting to see it more like this fucking kid and his lack of hats. And then he starts wearing hats. And I'm like, well, good. Thanks for listening. Also couldn't believe none of those kids saw that snowman. Later in the movie, the bully's like, I thought I saw you snowboarding. You look pretty cool, snowman dude. And it's like, none of the other kids saw him? And nobody thought anything? Like, and even the kid who did see him, Rory, apparently didn't think enough of it to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, that is sometimes the kind of B story you get with a movie like this, where there'll be like the bad kid who learns about the magic and wants to like come wreck it or do something with it.
Yeah.
So sort of expecting him to like spy on Charlie and, you know, like something to come from that. But it was literally just like, oh, right at the end of the movie, we need to like forgive each other or whatever, so it can be like sentimental, and Snow Dad's better than No Dad. And that's just such a weird thing to say. Like, I guess it is kind of dark.
Yeah.
But like, just the fact that he saw it apparently.
Yeah.
But it was not interesting enough to follow up on the living snowman who can snowboard.
No.
Like, that is literally a like 11-year-old kid's wet dream. It's like, you know what I got you for Christmas? A snowman who can snowboard with you. Like, that's the most amazing thing in the world. But this kid apparently saw it and was like, my balls hurt too much. I need to go.
Yeah.
Because he takes a bunch of groin shots in that chase. I noticed that.
Yes, he did.
It's like a tree branch in it, and I'm pretty sure a couple of snowballs.
Yeah. Did you notice that there's two kids that like are absolutely dead? Dead. So dead. They were on a sled. Giant ball of snow gets stuck in the tunnel.
Oh, right.
They stop just before it, and then another giant ball of snow comes and
crushes them.
Smushes them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're dead.
They're dead.
They're probably dead.
They're crushed between two essentially giant blocks of ice.
Yeah. And
dead. That was actually my note, was dead. Those kids are dead.
Oh, man. I also was a bit concerned about where it was going in terms of his wife.
Yeah.
Because like so much of the movie is like him being like, she can't see me. You know, it'll freak her out or whatever.
Yeah.
Only you, Charlie. And so they have to hide him or pretend he's not alive. And she thinks he's crazy because he's talking to the snowman all the time. And it's like totally reasonable reaction from her, considering that they have not let her in on the fact that he is indeed alive.
Yeah.
But she never sees him. And at the end of the movie, they fucking go up to the cabin in the woods, and Jack somehow calls her.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, okay, he's got branch arms. I guess he can hit buttons.
Yeah.
But still just so strange. But he just calls her, like, while she's running around because her child is missing.
Yeah, her child ran away with the snowman.
Yeah, and then he's just like, he's up here at the cabin. You should come up here. Ooh, just fucking hangs up. And I was like, there is no fucking way she doesn't show up with cops.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, no matter how much she may have been like, Jack? Like, hearing the voice. Like, 2 seconds after that, after the phone call's hung up, she goes like, oh my God. Okay, so we get the police. And that, like, that's the first words out of her mouth in any real world.
Yeah.
And then her going up there as Jack is telling Charlie, like, it's time for me to go for some reason. And is going to, like, disappear forever. I was like, oh my God, does she never know? Like, to her, is it just like her son wandering around with a snowman for the past couple of days and talked to it? Yeah. But now he's feeling better and the snowman's gone, but whatever. At least he's not talking to it anymore. Like, does she just have no clue what's been happening at all? Because then it would just be like, who was on the phone, Charlie?
Yeah.
Who was on the phone? Like, it would blow her mind. So I was like, there's no way she doesn't see him. And it's, of course, like the last second as he is like disappearing, she rolls in like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what's up, Gab? I didn't talk to you at all while I was here.
Yeah.
I was here for a few days. Kind of just ignored you.
Yeah.
I kind of just didn't talk to you at all.
I specifically didn't want you to see me.
Yeah, I avoided you. Like, that's so terrible. What are you doing? I couldn't believe she wasn't more angry with him.
Yeah. She just demanded him to sing her a smile again.
Yeah, which is like, okay, but that doesn't make up for you're still a dick. You're gonna need to come back again.
Yeah.
To make up for this now.
I'll see you next Christmas.
What kind of existence is it to be a living snowman, like, when you're trying to not get caught? Like, when Charlie goes and grabs him with the sled and they go off somewhere, it's like, then it's like, oh, cool, okay, cool, now we're out of sight of everybody and I can, like, hang out and be alive and everything. But, like, the whole time that, like, Charlie's, like, at home in his room, off at soccer or hockey practice, anywhere else in his life, you have to just stand in the lawn and just, like, watch the world go by, and you cannot interact with it at all.
Yeah, especially for someone like that who seemed like such an extrovert.
Yeah, like, so gregarious and outgoing and just being like, I can't just say hi to anybody.
Yeah. Because
I'm a monster.
Yeah,
I'm a literal monster. Like, if Sid's reaction is the most realistic reaction to it.
Yeah.
Which is just like shriek in terror. The rest of your life is over because you saw that.
Drive away real quick and then wear sunglasses forever and pray you never see another snowman again.
I mean, I would have accepted on top of his moment later of him like, oh no, nobody talk about snowmen. If there was like a little postscript to the movie where it showed like a, you know how they do those things where it's like a quick little shot that freeze frames and then a little thing that tells you about the person.
Yeah.
If it was like Coach Sid moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Like, no snowman ever again.
Yeah.
What I want to see from this movie, I want to see a cut of this movie where all of Jack's dialogue is Beetlejuice. Like, keep Jack as Jack, like Jack Michael Keaton human version. Keep him exactly how he is. But then once he comes back
as Beetlejuice.
He comes back as Beetlejuice the Snowman. I would accept that way better. Like, I would accept a creepy voice coming out of that puppet. And then maybe I would think it's less weird. Because the fact that it's like, hey, I'm just Michael Keaton. I'm just here. What's up, guys?
Yeah.
Makes it seem like a monster that's trying to lure you in by being normal. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, there's nothing wrong with him. Listen to how kind he sounds. And then it fucking like swallows your head.
Yeah.
But if it was already like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm creepy. I'm a creepy snowman. Then it's like, all right, you know, I can get on board with him.
Yeah.
He's weird and he knows it. He owns it.
He seems kind of fun.
Yeah.
I kind of like this guy.
Got a good time. But yeah, seriously, I want to see that fucking movie. Like, especially if there's a place somewhere in that movie to put the nice fucking model, because that would kill me. That would absolutely kill me if I saw that. Oh man, but yeah, I don't think I have anything else for this one. This is a fucking weird one.
It was.
The movies that we have for this month, we have a couple of weirdo movies, like movies that take place in a weird reality with magic and weird shit.
Yes.
And then 2 relatively grounded ones.
Yes.
So this week,
still odd,
still goofy.
Yes.
Definitely. But so this week we did a weird monster movie.
Yes.
And so next week we are delving into a more cartoonish but grounded with less magic Christmas movie that is also sort of a like cult Christmas movie, like in that way where it's like it's not technically good, but a lot of people like it. Like that is the
great.
definition of cult movie.
Yeah.
Is that it's not very good, but a lot of people like it. Yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week for Popcorn for Dinner, though. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Eat snow, you little wieners.